Hello, CT Roan on my Lab 7 for PHYS133 Part 2. We are now going from liquid state to the gaseous state via boiling point. As you can see here, I've got my thermometer and my half pot of water is currently heating up. It's important to make sure you put your thermometer, especially going from the last experiment where you was in, ice and cold temperatures. Put it in the water while it's heating up instead of putting it in right after it starts boiling. That way, it's not a drastic temperature change on your thermometer, not as much of a risk of it cracking or shattering. You want to give it time to gradually heat up, especially when it goes from a sub-zero temperature, 0 Celsius temperature, up to boiling point. So, the purpose of this, as you can see, I've got my little red marker up there at 100 degrees 100 degrees Celsius for boiling point. Making our way up slowly, just now passing 50. The purpose of this lab section is to observe the change of temperature and pressure from the liquid state to the gaseous state. So similar to the freezing point section, we're observing the water changing from a liquid to a gas based on gaining heat in the environment. In this case, we're applying heat from the stovetop. And eventually the heat capacity of the water will be exceeded. And when you exceed the heat capacity, it reaches the boiling point, in which point you have a phase change from liquid to gas. Now that's inverse of the freezing point, in which point you drop so far below the heat capacity of water that you reach the freezing point, which is consequently also the melting point. So we're almost up to a full boil here. Got some bubbles forming at the bottom, and I'm up to about 75 degrees Fahrenheit on this. We're going to sit here and observe this for a moment. Sit here and observe this for a moment while we're finally reaching a rolling boil here for this. Apologize for the unnecessary shush. My mom was coming in from the garage. Yeah, a little spotlight for Casey, the wonder dog down there. Yeah, so photogenic. Okay, so we're finally starting to hit a little bit more of an aggressive boil. I'm only at 90 degrees. So we'll see what happens after we reach the 1 minute time on this. Apologies for shaking the camera. I was punching in my 1 minute on the timer there. It slowed down significantly since it got to about 80 degrees. It's almost to a crawling stop now. So we've actually got a boil going in there. It's not even at the 95 yet, it's about halted at 94. And that's probably contributed to the fact that the pressure still is having to adjust inside the thermostat. And then whatever human error, might not be holding it in the hottest part of the pot. Temperature in the house could be affecting it as well, because it's going to be absorbing heat from the water and then losing heat to the lower temperature of the house as well. The heat capacity of the house is lower than the heat capacity, or the heat capacity of the water is lower. So at 1 minute, you can see we were only at about 95 degrees. So I bet after the full 5 minutes, we'll be up to an actual 100 degrees. That way any small margin of errors as well as the full pressure change will have completely adapted. And then we'll be up to the full 100 degrees, which is the actual 100 degrees Celsius that we've been trying to reach.